everybody. Good evening, good evening. Happy to have you on a Wednesday night in the final hours of August. I know we have one more evening, but it's gone. Though it felt like July today in the sun. It's very hot. And yeah, here we are on a hump day. The last one in August. And we're going to have a good one tonight because we've got a very interesting guy with a fun job. Really fun job. His name is Jeff Wamsley. I've been calling him Wamsley. And so it happens from time to time. And he is the guy who started the Mothman Museum, the Mothman Festival, which is coming up in September, and so many other things. I mean, he's written books, and he's made his life Mothman, and catering to a curiosity that never dies. So I love this kind of a thing, and I love Jeff's story too. So we're going to talk a little bit about how he came to find himself as a proprietor of some of the best Mothman exhibits in Point Pleasant, in West Virginia. And then from there, we're just going to talk about the legend itself and what he's learned over the years and the witnesses he's spoken to and the elements of the story that not many people know about, but are worth noting. Like, did you know that there is a Men in Black aspect to the Mothman sightings? That this may be a little bit more along the lines of a Roswell level operation than just, cryptozoology. I don't know. But it's the first time I heard it. And I thought, well, that's going to be really great to talk about that and many other things. And, of course, we'll learn about the museum. We'll learn about the upcoming festival that's going to be happening, I think, on September 16th and 17th. Anybody in the West Virginia area, I know a lot of you are within driving distance of it. It looks like it's going to be a fun time. And you know what? If the middle of my September weren't so crazy already, I would be. I'd be there. No doubt about it. So the best thing I can do second to that is talk about it and let everybody else know, because perhaps some of you can go out there and I will live vicariously through you. I want to make a couple of quick announcements. Number one, I know about the 8 o'clock start times that have been displayed across every platform. I thought it was just a pilled issue. Then I realized it was Rumble. I realized it was YouTube. I realized it was everything. I don't understand what happened. So I just want to let you know. I noticed it. And I do not know what happened. Because especially today, this is the second day in a row now, I went and I scheduled everything, and I double-checked 7 o'clock. Saved it. It said 7 o'clock. So the first thing I'm going to do when I get home is peek into my system settings on my home computer and make sure I'm in the right time zone, which if I'm suddenly not in EST, I'm going to wonder how the hell that happened. But then again, everything happens for whatever. It's also up in the air. Also up in the air. But yes, there's going to be, and also just so you know, this just came in from Abe. On the network end of things, after the show ends tonight at 9 o'clock, there is going to be a Mothman Rabbit Hole. Okay, so we're going Mothman Rabbit Hole Wednesday after this show ends on quitefrankly.tv. That is where you all should be watching. You all should be watching and enjoying, because that's the only place on the internet where the 7 o'clock show ends and the extension of Quite Frankly, that is the network, the stuff that we can't do in an average 2-hour broadcast, that's when the after-hour programming begins. And who knows? I don't know if they're going to play the actual Mothman Prophecies from 2002, which I always thought was a decent movie with Richard Gere. Do you guys see that movie? I haven't seen it in a while. I'd like to watch it again. I'm sure anything that I asked Jeff tonight is going to be something that he has heard tens of thousands of times, and I'm not exaggerating. So let's see the patience he has with me. It's going to be a good time. Also, while you're on QuiteFrankly.tv, get to the affiliates page and patronize all of our wonderful friends and sponsors. Go check them out. All American businesses, all American products and services, things that you need, things that you will not feel sorry about indulging in a little recreation time as well. So go and do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. Tomorrow night, I have a guest coming on. His name is Mike King, and he is the host of Profiling Evil. It's a very popular YouTube channel for true crime. And they follow a lot of, they are on top of a lot of cases that are open, that are developing in real time. True crime in real time. So I want to invite you all to send me questions. If you ever wanted to, because it's going to be a very, very true crime, by the book. He's a hard-nosed kind of guy that just likes getting down to work, doesn't deal in conspiracy theories, all that stuff. He just deals with what's in front of him. And if you ever had any questions of people who investigate these cases, questions about methodology, trends that they see, that they have seen over the years, things that get better, that get worse, that are mutating in society, as it pertains to violent crime and ritual murder, anything like that, this would be a great night to send me an email and say, I've got a true crime question, especially when it has to do with actual methodology of detective work. I would love to hear some of your questions about that. I would love to have all the best questions about methods tomorrow. And yeah, so, and then after that, Friday night should be fun. I have some fun things set aside for Friday night when Matt is here. And then next week should be just as well. Jeff Harmon is coming on next week. As of right now, I think Jay Dyer is coming back for a night. And yeah, a lot more to come. So I'm having a good time. Got to force yourself to have a good time, because there's plenty of reasons why you can just walk around with like a pit in your stomach, like I got that's going on, oh, that's ahead, and then you start getting into this habit where you're just trying to survive the weeks when you don't have to, when you mustn't just survive the weeks. Those weeks are your life. It's not just the work week. Your life isn't the weekend. I know it might feel that way sometimes, but yeah. We must all carry on. All right, so here we go. Into the grab bag. Oh, just a quick aside about that kid Jaden last night that we were talking about, had the Gadsden flag patch on his book bag, and he had a problem with some ninny school teachers and administrators out there. Well, the district evaluated the entire thing. They said he should attend school with the Gadsden flag patch visible on his backpack. They said upon learning the events of today, that's yesterday, the Vanguard School Board directors called an emergency meeting about a Gadsden flag. Well, I guess it's the whole thing, and especially emergency meeting because it garnered national attention. From Vanguard's founding, we have proudly supported our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the ordered liberty that all Americans enjoyed for almost 250 years. The Vanguard School recognizes the historical significance of the Gadsden flag and its place in history. This incident is an occasion for us to reaffirm our deep commitment to a classical education in support of these American principles, which I think is a timely and very well articulated statement to quickly put this behind everybody and make no bones about what the hell this is. Now, obviously, you need to evaluate, again, the type of teachers you're bringing into your schools, which is going to be very hard to rid yourself of this nonsense, because this is an ideology that implants itself inside of busybody, especially busybody women. and it just replicates, and they feel the need to be missionaries in this social engineering, and that's why they go into education. So good on the school district for releasing that statement, but of course there are other problems to be solved. As far as Mitch McConnell's problems, you might have seen this, you might not have, but he had another neurological freeze-up episode. He was addressing media in Covington today, and his aides had to step in to help him out and repeat questions. He was eventually led away, and that is all from the reporting of Hannah Thomas. But take a look at this. Another very awkward and painful 46 seconds.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
Re-election. He's asked a question about whether or not he's running for re-election in 2026.
I should.
Well, there's your answer. Oh, God. He's gone.
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
Yeah, he heard it.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator. Benny.
It's... honestly, it pulls on my heartstrings here, because it reminds me of my grandmother. Toward the end, docile, kind of staring off a little bit, hears you, needs a little bit of leading, but obviously when he is in top form, which was only like a year and a half ago. This is the weird thing about people like Dianne Feinstein. Obviously, they don't want to let go. You got to pry their bony fingers off of the levers of power. But you go back even 3.5 years, and they are still in fighting form. Dianne Feinstein is making Lisa Murkowski cower in the corner over there in the wherever the hell they were. I forget what was going on there. As far as bullying people and being able to whip votes and subjugate people, this is an 87-year-old woman at the time. Now she's 90 and has completely deteriorated. Obviously, a lot of things has happened in the last 3 years. Who knows what's going on here? But Mitch McConnell is the same. He's 80, 81, and he's gaunt and obviously fried. Now, when he's in top form, we can throw around, you mock people, and I mock him. I mocked him a lot. Not mocking him now, because this is obviously not what is this? And it just happens so fast. It happens so fast. Just incredible. So yeah, I mean, he seemed like he had control even just like 8 months ago. Remember, I mean, he was out there. We're listening to him make declarations about what 2024 was going to be about after the midterms, and laying the groundwork for a moving away from Donald Trump, leaving the Trump era behind the party and all that. And he is just gone. A light switch has been flipped. Very odd. Well, I feel bad for his loved ones, because obviously somebody has to care for him, and he's not going to get better. All right? At that age, that stuff starts happening. It's just stuff that you have to deal with, and hopefully you can manage it for a while. Anyway, here's the New York Post. New York Post has some crazy stuff for you. Inside San Francisco's dens of death as liberal city faces drug crisis. Now, we knew it was bad out there, but listen to this. San Francisco's once trendy downtown area has descended into a drug-addled hellscape where addicts regularly overdose in city-funded dens of death. Historic hotels in the Tenderloin neighborhood, which used to be the City by the Bay's premier entertainment district, are now the face of the progressive California city's deterioration. Around 20,000 rooms in about 500 hotels have been converted from coveted tourist destinations into roach and vermin-infested single-room occupancy housing for vagrants. This is what they're doing. Listen, it's all over the place. They want hotels turned into these crack dens. They want hotels turned into places where they can house the illegal aliens that they're trafficking across the border with federally subsidized buses and planes. They're also doing this to apartment buildings. And what are they doing first? They're wrestling away any kind of private ownership of these properties through rent moratoriums because of COVID and all that other stuff. And then, of course, these actions that completely destroy any kind of chance that they will be profitable again and will actually contribute to a city. And people are just going to start cashing in their chips. And then what do you have? You have hotels, you have apartment buildings, and you have every other kind of public housing that is owned by what is essentially government-subsidized buildings, government-subsidized companies. So it's an expansion of public housing by covert means. And it's just destroying cities, and they don't care. It's destroying everything. I mean, there's no more culture left. This is sad. Especially when you see the drugs that everybody's doing these days. That trank stuff that turns people into zombies, that's something else, man. So many of the century-old buildings are now overrun with drug-addled zombies high on fentanyl and flesh-eating animal tranquilizer dubbed trank. You've seen the videos out of Philadelphia and everywhere else. Residents told the Post during a tour on Tuesday. It's like living in a prison, but worse, Robert Blackburn said of his squalid room in one of Tenderloin's SROs. The neighborhood, located just 2 miles south of tourist hotspot Fisherman's Wharf, was once one of San Francisco's fashionable neighborhoods, home to bonanza kings, politicians, and millionaire merchants, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. I wonder what Michael Savage has to say about this. Wonder what Savage has to say about this. Longtime Tenderloin resident J.J. Smith, who lives near 4 of the city-funded buildings, says that once they put these people in there, it's like they're stuck. Yeah, they're not getting out. And it's another reason why landlords are selling, because they realize that there's no going back, that this is permanent, that the people who are being put in there, whether they've been imported or created here domestically, this is the future. This is the future that those who control our government and most of our, influence most of what's going on in our lives now, this is the future that they've invested in. So you can't have people who are functional, who are sober, who are working, who are independent, and don't need anybody. That's it. That's it. And this is, of course, the lowest of the underclass you can create, and they want that underclass to be permanent. All right, let's see. Oh, here's another one. We're going to do a little bit more on this maybe on a Friday night, but just as a segue into something I think is much funnier and more appropriate for a Friday night. But the woman on the plane who said that the MF in the back of the plane is not real. This thing keeps getting more and more eye-rolling. Now she has been spotted. She's been spotted in an airport by TMZ wearing the exact same shirt. Now, I think it's a different color, but it's the exact same cut. Her hair is done the same way. Makeup is done the same way. She has replicated her fashion choices for the big infamous day that she was escorted off the plane. Now, this is TMZ. Isaac Weishaupt, who was just on the show, said this. He said, "This is so bizarre. No way this chick is trying to lay low," and then goes to the airport wearing the same exact outfit as the famous video. And TMZ just happened to be at the airport. I told him, and I'll tell you, and this does not take a rocket science to figure it out, these meetings, they are completely planned. They are staged. I know this from experience because in spring of 2014, when my brother Anthony's 10-second songs account first went mega viral and literally broke the internet for a few weeks, they got in touch with us and said, "Hey, would you like to meet us down here this time? We want to do a piece on you, but it has to be on the street and all that stuff." So we're like, "Sure." Oh yeah. And Anthony's like, "Do you want to come with me? I think I'm going to do this." I mean, this is at a time when he was getting written up in Rolling Stone and every news organization around here and whatever. So we're like, "Sure, yeah, we'll go down." So me, Anthony, our buddy Gypsy, we went down together. And they literally told us, "Okay, we'll just start right here, and you just walk down the street, and we're going to walk down this way, and we're going to stop you, and have a little exchange." And they said, "You got it," and that's what we did. And I don't even think they ever used it, but this stuff is always this is nonsense. And what do they say in this little canned video here? Well, here she is. She's asked the question about what did you see that day, all right? And everything is, the cat that ate the cream smile and can't tell you now. You got to go to my socials and figure out what comes next. Bullshit. I honestly, so when I saw the TMZ thing, I said, wow, this is every string that could be attached to this thing has been long since attached.
Right now, you can't.
All right,
listen to this.
Well, but what about, what was the reason that you wanted to get off so bad?
Again, can't speak on that right now, but
Understood.
I can't speak on that right now. We're trying to figure out what species we were dealing with. Yeah, we're in talks with the Galactic Federation, and we will have more on that soon. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you think the crazy is with her? What do you think? Are we talking about 6 to 8? Are we going mid to high here? We'll see. We'll talk about a little bit more of that on Friday, and who the hell knows. All right. Well, thank you guys and gals so much. Let's get this one started off so I can set the table for our friend Jeff Wamsley of the Mothman Museum and Mothman Festival down there in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Don't go anywhere.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's...
Yes. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the real show. And what got to you tonight? Let me get all my notes. See where I left off. Oh yes. Oh yes. How simple. We're talking about Mothman. Now, tonight's guest, who's going to be joining us pretty soon, his name is Jeff, and he's got a great story. We're going to talk. I'm going to wait for the personal story until he comes on here. But I want to go to the website, mothmanlives.com, which was the first thing that he launched. After realizing how big the interest, always is. There's always an interest in Mothman, especially in that part of the country, in which he had just opened up a record store. Okay, that's part of his story. He had a chain of record stores, and he opened up one in Point Pleasant. And there's always something Mothman going on, always inquiries being made. And then of course, this next chapter in his life started with mothmanlives.com. Now, I'm going to read you a little excerpt that's on this website, and it comes right from the book that you at least everybody knows the title of this book, The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel. And it was the inspiration for the movie and much, much more. But take a listen to this. The following two paragraphs are taken directly from the back cover of John Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies. For 13 months, the entire town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, was gripped by a dark terror that culminated in a tragedy that made headlines all over the world. This is a story that contains the elements of a modern science fiction movie, but every single word is true and fully documented by famed journalist John A. Keel. Homes throughout the little towns were plagued with unearthly noises and ghostly manifestations, while mysterious aerial lights traveled silently overhead, seemingly on a regular basis. Winged monsters and frightening apparitions terrified the population as automobiles stalled and telephones and TV sets ran amok. A Red Cross bloodmobile filled with fresh blood was pursued along a darkened highway by a weird flying machine. Domestic animals were found slaughtered and mutilated in pastoral farm fields. Innocent people lived in surrealistic horror, haunted by the fearsome demonic bird and besieged by legions of strange beings, some of which arrived in ordinary-looking automobiles. So this is a little bit of the back end of this. And it goes back to the early 20th century, too. It even says over here, in the earlier parts of the 1900s, an area outside of Point Pleasant was set up as a McClintock wildlife preserve. It was, among other things, designed as a bird sanctuary. Now, during World War II, part of that preserve was ripped up in order to construct about 100 igloos, they call them. These large mounds of earth were made to be unnoticed from the air. Deep inside each, we had cement and steel protected the contents, which were wartime explosives. So bombs and all that kind of stuff were being housed over here in a portion of what was originally a bird sanctuary. So I wonder what this all means. That all of a sudden, this part of town had become of military interest, and then very Roswell-like occurrences here. It makes me wonder how much of this is cryptozoological and how much of this is just the old-fashioned Roswell UFO secret military program kind of a thing that's going on. But as I said before, whatever I have to ask, whatever I've been pondering, whatever I'm going to throw at Jeff Wamsley over here, he has heard thousands of times before. I just hope I don't bore him. Jeff, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for making time for us tonight. And before we get to all the other things that you do and what's going on there in September with the festival and all in the museum, I want to know about it all. I want to talk about your personal story, what led you to Mothman. Because what I have read is that it was your rock and roll lifestyle. You are a musician, a music teacher. You've recorded your own music back in the day, too. Had a rock band, metal, all that stuff. That's close to my heart right there. But rock and roll, it led you to Mothman. It led you to Point Pleasant. Can you tell us about that story?
Well, actually, I was born and raised in Point Pleasant.
Oh, really? I thought you were in Ohio.
Yeah,
I got that
I've lived
wrong.
here all my life. I was about 5 years old when all this stuff started back in the mid '60s. But you are correct. I started playing guitar when I was about 15. Huge Kiss fan. Seen them on the Alive 2 tour, and that kind of changed things for me. So got heavily into playing guitar. We had a band and did a couple albums and stuff. I still play when time permits, but at the same time as the music career was keeping us busy and everything, I opened a chain of record stores called Criminal Records. And we dabbled a little bit with some Mothman merchandise. A buddy and myself both were artists and graphic design type people, and I seen the interest and everything. And this was before the movie came out in 2002, the Mothman Prophecies movie with Richard Gere. So I wrote that first book, Mothman Facts Behind the Legend, because a lot of the witnesses, those original witnesses, I knew who they were. They were a lot older than I was, but I was able to get interviews with a lot of those people, get their take on what was going on. and it kind of blew up from there, you know, in the record stores. And then Napster came along and kind of ruined it for the record shops and stuff, the independent mom and pop stores. So went into teaching graphic design. I just retired this year from the high school career center. So I devote pretty much all my time now to the museum, the festival, and we have a couple other big projects that we're working on and stuff. But yeah, I guess you could say rock and roll kind of, you know, I was always fascinated, you know, like I said, with bands like Kiss and the theatrical aspect of things. And I think that's what kind of drew me to the sci-fi side of things, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't separate.
But I do have my New York Yankees hat on, too. I noticed you had one on.
Oh, yeah. Well, are you a fan?
Yeah. You know, I don't watch sports much anymore and stuff, but I always thought the logo was cool.
Yeah. I always thought it is, too. And honestly, that's all they are this year, a logo, because they stink. They stink. but I would say... So, see, that's really interesting. I guess whatever I was reading before, maybe I just misinterpreted it. I thought that you were from Ohio, and this string of record stores that opened up, and you picked Point Pleasant as one as a place. It doesn't matter because
I live in Ohio now. My wife was from Ohio, you know, but I was born and raised in Point Pleasant. We spend most of our time over there in Point Pleasant.
Got you. So this is interesting how that digital age coming in and really screwing, because we loved our record shops. We loved going to the record store, and we had a lot of really good ones around here, and it just became obsolete. But you actually were able to transition into something else with the Mothman stuff that was popping up, and this kind of interest. The more I read about Point Pleasant, this is one of those rare things where people, an entire town seems to really embrace that identifier as the home of Mothman.
Yeah, they do. I mean, you know, it happened so many years ago, but you know, you go anywhere in the world pretty much and tell people you're from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and most people know, you know, they'll mention Mothman and stuff. But I did go pretty much from music to monsters. I always tell people that because you know, the Mothman Museum is a lot like the record stores. You know, it has that independent feel to it. And we actually we have two sister stores right close to the museum, and one of them's called Point Pleasant Trading Company. The other one is called Bunker 304, but it's modeled after. It actually sits beside the original spot where one of the criminal record stores, you know, was located. So people come in there and they say, "Oh, this reminds me of criminal records," and I'm like, "Well,
here I am."
It's kind of modeled after it.
Well, that's a pretty big stake you have over there. 3 different locations, all around the same area. I love the look of the museum. That is linked on the websites we have over here. Tell us about some of the exhibits you have there before we start getting into the story and the local lore. By the way, I love the merch too. I ordered myself a shirt earlier on, so I'll be wearing that sometime soon. But tell us about the exhibits you have at the museum.
Well, the museums and the archives that we have at the museum, I've collected for, you know, 20, 30 years. A lot of those are one of a kind. We have original police reports. We have original transcripts from John Keel's Mothman Prophecies book, who, by the way, he was from New York. You know, he came here to investigate the Mothman sightings. So we have a lot of his original pieces of work. We have a lot of props that were used in the motion picture with Richard Gere, Mothman Prophecies. Costumes. We have a new media room where you can sit down and watch documentaries. It's all interactive. On the weekends, we even have a Mothman tour guide type guy who goes through the museum with people and answers questions and stuff. Above the museum, we've been working on it for about 3 years. We're trying to get it finished up as will be our Mothman escape room. And that's going to be pretty cool when we get it finished. COVID kind of threw us back a little bit, but we have a few technical issues we're trying to get taken care of.
All you need is
above the trading company, which sits beside the museum. We just started this week with putting the carpet in, but it will be a 9-hole blacklight mini golf Mothman themed. And that'll be the only one in the world, pretty much, just like the museum.
I mean, talk about originals. You've got the tour. The tour buses that you can. Well, I saw the van. I know the tours are available. You got the great merch. You've got all these artifacts and all these relics from the first sightings and all of that. And now the mini golf. All you need is the Mothman laser tag. You got to get Mothman laser tag.
Yeah, that company that puts in the golf, they do the laser tag too.
Oh, you got to do it. Well,
you never know. You never know.
So let me ask you about now the stories, the first sightings. I know that you said you've been able to talk and you know witnesses from when this first popped up in, I think, 1966. Talk about the very first sightings here and what we were talking about. Was it aerial phenomenon in a way where they thought it was vehicles, or was it always bird-like? Go ahead and start from the beginning.
Well, the first sighting here in Point Pleasant took place on November 15th, 1966, and the two young couples. They were both married couples in a car up in the T&T area, which is about 9 miles north of Point Pleasant. The T&T area during World War II is where they manufactured explosives for World War II. After the war ended, the government just left everything up there. So it was a perfect environment for anything spooky like that. But you had the old power plants up there and the igloo bunkers, which are still there now. That's where we take the tours to. But anyways, they were up there. It was about 11 o'clock at night. It was like a Tuesday evening, I think. And they were driving by that what they called the North Power Plant. So it's a three-story tall structure. Vacant, and it's where all the kids would hang out and drag race and all that kind of stuff, Lover's Lane. And they saw what they just thought was a person or a man standing in the middle of the road as they came down the road. And Linda Scarberry, who was sitting in the front seat, told me, she said, well, we just thought it was a man until we got up on it. And she said the headlights hit it, and we noticed two distinct red eyes, almost like a nocturnal animal, like a possum or a raccoon or whatever. And she said as we got closer, we saw wings come out, and she estimated 10 to 12 foot wingspan. And she said it stood there and looked at us, and then it ran in toward the North Power Plant. They just thought maybe it was somebody just trying to scare them or whatever, so they went on down the road. And then when they got to Route 62, coming back into town, it's about a 4-mile stretch coming down through there. They noticed something over top of their car. They were driving an old 57 Chevy Bel Air. And she said it came right over top of the car, stay above the car for a while, disappear, come back. And it chased them all the way into town. They didn't know what it was. It scared them, They pulled into the local hamburger joint called Tiny's Drive-In and ran in and told the owner, who I actually spoke to about 2 weeks ago. He's in his 80s now, but I asked him, I said, do you think they were making the story up? And he said, absolutely not. He said, I called the police because he said, I saw how upset they were.
And when you say that it was over the car, you're talking about this thing was it was in midair and it was matching speeds. Okay, go ahead.
And they were doing about 90 to 95 miles an hour down that straight stretch. She said it would come over the car a little bit and then it would disappear, come back over the car. The sheriff's department investigated, went back up to the T&T area with the two couples, didn't see anything, and that sparked almost a 2-year period of people seeing what some people thought was just an enormous bird of some sort, a large sandhill crane. But Linda and them were adamant about what they told me. They said, what we saw was shaped more like a man. It wasn't a bird. But you had over 100 reported sightings within the first year, I think year and a half. And I always speculated there was a lot of people that didn't report it because they were just afraid of people calling them crazy and stuff, So, but a lot of prominent people. I mean, it wasn't just two young couples. You had professional business people, teachers, all kinds of people reporting strange lights in the sky, this flying entity. And then, of course, the men in black started coming into the picture. A lot of these witnesses said that they were getting visits from these people that were dressed in black suits and the dark glasses and asking them not to talk about it, that they really didn't need to be putting this stuff in the newspapers and all kinds of stuff.
When you bring this, when I started reading into your work and to what was out there and what's been documented, especially what the museum does to talk about this and preserve, I had no clue about the Men in Black aspect. I also had, but then again, I had no clue about this portion of Point Pleasant that was pretty much of military interest during World War II. So all of a sudden, when I get military involvement, Men in Black, I was going to ask you an origin question. Obviously, you probably get this a lot too. The creature's origin story. You know, for example, closer to where I am in New Jersey, that area, southern New Jersey, around the Pine Barrens, we've got the Jersey Devil. And you know, the story about the Jersey Devil is that it's the cursed 13th child of a woman from the Pine Barrens named Jane Leeds. And I wondered, okay, is there some kind of a common backstory for where Mothman came out of? But now I don't know if you're talking cryptozoological or you're talking about a military style cover-up over here.
Well, there's so many different theories. I mean, you know, some people thought it might have been a bird that got into some of the waste that was left over in the TNT area, you know, was a deformed bird or animal of some sort. Some people looked at it more of a spiritual type entity. You know, back 200 years ago, you had a Shawnee chief named Chief Cornstalk who was murdered over a land dispute, and there was always rumors that he cursed the town for 200 years. Every time something bad would happen, you know, people would say, well, it might be Cornstalk's curse. And then John Keel always speculated that, you know, this was the height of the Vietnam War, you know, in the mid 60s. And he speculated that maybe the military was here doing maneuvers, experimenting with stealth technology, which explained the lights in the sky and things like that. But I mean, I've heard about every theory that you can think of. You know, Green Berets may have been training in the TNT area, parachuting into the area and landing on cars, you know, experimenting with jetpacks. You know, there's been so many different theories. And honestly, you know, I don't really think anybody will ever be able to close the book on what it really was. I mean, I know that there were a lot of people who encountered it and saw it, but and a lot of those original witnesses, they still won't talk about it. You know, they feel uncomfortable. They don't want the media attention, and you know, you have to kind of respect that. But I meet a lot of people in the museum. I'll have older people will come up to me and they'll say, you know what, we saw that thing, but we never told anybody. We just was afraid people would think we were all crazy and stuff, you know.
Stories of physical contact, how about that? Because it's one thing to say, well, this crossed our car, it pursued us, there's something on it. What about stories of physical contact or any kind of physical evidence or residue left behind? Are there any relics of the actual creature itself?
Well, there were eyewitness descriptions and drawings. There was never any droppings or feathers, or, you know, the sheriff's department, I think when they went up, found a few footprints around the boiler room there at the North Power Plant. At that point, they didn't really, I don't think they took it that seriously, you know, or whatever. As far as I know, no one was ever physically harmed or attacked or anything. There were people that I talked to that were within an arm's length of touching it. But a lot of mental issues, you know, people just couldn't rationalize, you know, what it was. And it really made a lot of people paranoid, including John Keel. You know, he never did actually see it, because he would go back to New York, then they would call him and say, hey, we saw it again, you need to come back down here. So, you know, he was back and forth all the time and stuff. But, you know, but there was never anybody who was physically harmed. But I know a lot of those people, after they did see it, you know, they didn't want to talk about it and they didn't want to have anything to do with it. So, well, even to this day.
The excerpts that you had provided on the website from John Keel's book, which I would really like to read one day.
Yeah.
As I said before, it's one of those things where most people have not read it, but everybody knows the title and what came from it. But you have, on the excerpt there, again, the 13 months of terror that culminated with a tragedy. I have to imagine that the tragedy he's talking about is the collapse of the Silver Bridge.
Right.
So yeah. What is this is the thing I would like to know, is that so far what you have talked about is menacing maybe in curious behavior from a non-human entity or something that people cannot identify, but nothing that is making any kind of, nobody's getting attacked, nothing is being physically harmed. Where did the link between Mothman and the bridge collapse come from?
Well, I think basically that Silver Bridge was 40 years old. It was in really poor shape. It was built in 1928, and it was designed for horse and buggy, not coal trucks and semi-trucks. So the technical reason the bridge collapsed was a failed eye-bar. Okay, so when that eye-bar sheared, the whole bridge just went. But the fact that it happened right in the middle of all these Mothman sightings, UFO sightings, Men in Black, some people thought that maybe there was a connection there. The book and the movie really played that up, especially the movie, that this creature, bird, spirit, whatever, had caused the bridge to collapse. And it's kind of went that way for the past 10, 20 years, People say, well, before the Chernobyl disaster, they saw a large bird flying across, and every time there's a natural disaster or anything. But I don't really have any proof of that, I get emails constantly from all over the world from people seeing weird stuff. I'm not so much, a field investigator where I go out and look into all this stuff. I just happen to be right in the middle of it. I was young. I was very young when it happened and stuff, but I knew all those people. My family knew their families and stuff. And I don't really think that, that many people could make up the same description and story.
Right.
If it would have been 2 or 3, 4 people, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now,
Yeah.
But when you have over 100 reported sightings to the authorities and people coming and saying, hey, this huge figure flew over our house and, or car or whatever, there had to have been something to it. I don't know. People ask me all the time, what do you think it was? And I'm just as clueless as everybody else. But I think it's kind of neat to look at a lot of the, the interviews and the pictures and drawings that people have done over the years, and the documentaries. They bring up all the different theories and stuff. So it's pretty.
Well, the most readily available theory is that Mothman, especially over the years of just allowing the internet to do its thing, has become some sort of a harbinger of impending doom, or or not even impending. Like you said before, I'm sure that you are only really concerned with things that are going on locally, but Mothman now has been sighted all over the planet, well outside of your jurisdiction over there.
Right.
But we over here in New York, there's been plenty of people who said that they saw Mothman in southern Manhattan on September 11th, 2001.
I forgot to mention that.
Oh yeah, it's all over the place.
It's now it's part of pop culture, because Mothman is right in there with Bigfoot and Loch Ness and all that. It didn't used to be until the movie came out in the documentaries, and then you've got the Fallout 76 game. You have people that come to the festival and stuff, that little kids, look at almost Mothman the way I used to look at Batman when I was a kid, like a superhero type thing. So it's taken a life of its own as far as the way people perceive it. The people that I knew, that those original witnesses, just are not real comfortable talking about that stuff. They don't look at it as a, pop art.
Right.
They look at it as something that really scared them and changed their life a little bit there, So, it's, again, it has been picked up by all the media and social media and movies and documentaries, video games, all kinds of stuff, which is cool. It's, everybody has their own opinion on it and things like that. And I always explain to people, I'm not in the business of convincing anybody of anything, because all we do at the museum is give you a lot of those archives and artifacts and let you come in and decipher it and figure out what you think,
Mm-hmm.
I get people that come in the museum will stay in there for 3-4 hours. I get some people come in and they laugh and they think it's the funniest thing, and they have a good time and they leave. So there's different ways that people perceive the whole story and stuff.
Absolutely, and I also got to say, I know that many things are different. There's a lot of differences between where I'm from over here in the southeastern part of New York, suburban, urban areas of New York and West Virginia. But when I see a museum with $5 admission for adults and less than $2 admission for kids under 10, that is. I don't even know what to say to that, Jeff. The prices like that, you can't buy candy bars for less than $5 over here. So I think it's just so great how accessible you've made this, and like you said, people take it with varying levels of seriousness. But as you're talking about this, I'm thinking of Orson Welles and the War of the Worlds broadcast, 1937, 1938. Because that was a very, in the aftermath of that, it was the freak out was not nearly as much as people said, but in the aftermath of that, the public's response to what was being done on the radio was very well invested in. It was very studied closely by the Rockefeller types and all of that, and they wanted to see how people were affected by one singular event.
Right.
And when I think about this, the seriousness with which people tell these stories, that they don't want to talk about it sometimes, that it was a trauma. It wasn't just a curious thing. You're describing a trauma that people experienced. And I think about figures like Slender Man, and more recently this Loab character, this corpse-like looking woman that keeps appearing in all this AI-generated images all over the internet. And the questions about tulpas arise over and over again for me and in certain circles. Now, it doesn't explain the initial appearances of Mothman, but is it possible that Mothman, at least since then, has materialized through concentrated human intention alone? That's one thing that I think about.
Right. Yeah. That happened in 66, so it was a while back. The sightings went on for a few years, and but yeah, like I said, it's hard to tell in 20 years what the story, how it will morph into whatever. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's the whole Men in Black and the Mothman and the UFOs, all that stuff kind of was all balled up into one thing, and then again, you talk to some people that just say, it was just a big bird. Even the locals referred to it as the Birdman or the Big Bird or whatever. So a lot of them just thought, it's just an abnormally sized bird. Others said, no, it was something a little worse than that, than just a bird flying around and stuff. So, it is interesting.
Amazingly, that Men in Black tie-in to the Mothman story changes all this for me. Could you go in? You brought it up before, but can you go into that with a little bit more detail? Have they harassed witnesses? Are we talking Roswell level harassment and door knocking as we read about?
Well, there was there was a local newspaper reporter here at that time. Her name was Mary Hire. And she was you didn't have the internet, social media, or anything like that. So her daily columns in the Register and the Athens Messenger, that's how people found out the news. Okay, so when John Keel comes to town after he hears about all this, they kind of join forces, and she's writing these articles about the UFOs and the Birdman and Mothman and all that. And then she tells John Keel, said, hey, I look out my window at night and there's a car sitting out there and these two guys sitting there with black glasses on and hats, and they're watching my house. And then she says, they're coming into my office and asking me questions and acting very peculiar. And I don't know who they are. They don't identify themselves, but they tell me that I don't need to be putting anything in the newspaper about these sightings and UFOs and Mothman and stuff. So she was a little concerned about, who they were. She said they just had an odd behavior to them. And she said one thing she noticed is that when they talked to her, they never blinked their eyes. It was just always a cold stare. So little things she started picking up on. She said one of them picked up a pencil off of her desk and just stared at it like he didn't know what it was. She said they didn't act like, they really were from around here and stuff. So yeah, there was one witness, her name was Connie Carpenter, and she had an encounter in the daytime. It flew up beside of her car and scared her half to death. She went home, she was distraught. And a few days later, her boyfriend at the time had told us, in interviews with John Keel and stuff, that she went to her mailbox and a car pulled up and they tried to pull her into the car and literally pulled the sleeve off of her shirt, And I actually found her on Facebook there a few years ago, and I don't think she realized, she found out quickly who I was and everything. And then I told her, I'd like to talk to her sometime about it. And she said, if you want to talk about the Mothman stuff, she said, I'll never talk about that ever again. She made it clear that she wasn't going to discuss it or anything.
You see, that's a lot. That's something so far beyond the pale of, I had some annoying reporter come to my house again. This is that's something. What about you, Jeff? You're a collector of stories, but no experiences yourself?
No, I've met a lot of strange people, but not Men in Black. I mean, I get a few prank phone calls once in a while, and
no sightings of the Mothman for you either.
No. I mean,
would you prefer not to, or do you want to have your own?
Not.
Okay.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I was really young when all that was going on and stuff. I think a couple of my buddies, when we were in junior high, seen some weird lights in the sky. That was about it. We didn't think anything of it. That would have been in the 70s or whatever. But no, I've never had any personal sightings or any encounters with any of that stuff. But I have, like I said, I've talked to a lot of people that were there when it happened, secondhand witnesses. I did do some investigation, sometimes with that. It's always neat to talk to somebody who was there. Maybe they didn't see it, but they knew the people that did see it.
Right.
Because a lot of those people, had passed away. I mean, if they were in their 20s and 30s, that's been 55 years ago. So some of them are no longer around.
It's crazy to think about that.
When I did the interviews and stuff, I recorded everything. I did all those interviews for those 2 books, and I have a audio record of all that.
That's timeless.
Some of those audios, they've been used in some of the documentaries and stuff like that. But that's a piece of history, I think.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, it was just a couple of years ago. Everybody we were talking about I forget which, however many years it is since 1947, the Roswell, the July 8th, or there were major anniversaries over the last 5 to 10 years, and the last of anybody who was alive to talk about it personally gone. And you think about that because something like Roswell becomes a part of pop culture history in many ways, and it's more relevant to people than others. And this in particular, Mothman too. I mean, the cryptids in America is a very cozy thing, and it does run parallel to a lot of just mainstream history. So it's great that you've got this down for posterity, because there's always going to be people that are going to want to know everything they can about this, and you've got it on record. Let me ask you about this now. I want to talk about the festival, because that's coming up on September 16th and 17th. Really wonderful lineup of things you have going on here. It looks like you're attracting a lot of artists, a lot of some music, great food. It's all Mothman themed. Tell us about the festival and how people can get out there and do it.
Okay, well, the festival's been going on for about 20 years now. We started that festival, Carolyn Harris and myself, the late Carolyn Harris and myself, started that That's when I had the record store there on Main Street. She had a little diner. People referred to it as the Mothman Diner. And we thought, the movie had just came out, and we thought it'd be cool to have a little Mothman convention or whatever, and we tried it that first year. I think we had 500 people show up and stuff. And it just grew and grew and grew every year. And now it's one of the bigger festivals in the state of West Virginia. In the country, there's a lot. We get people from all over the country, all over the world. So we draw 20,000 people now to Main Street, which was never built for 20,000 people, But somehow we pull it off. Parking and traffic is pretty bad, but it's a little rough there. But we have live bands and guest speakers, we get a few celebrities pop up once in a while and stuff, and but it's a free festival. Again, we still want to draw people to the merchants downtown, and you have the Mothman statue out there, the museum is open, live bands and all that kind of stuff. So we try to promote a lot of the local tri-state bands, give them a shot.
That's what I was going to ask. Have you performed at?
No,
I can't.
I'm usually too busy.
Wait a second. No. You've been doing this for 20 years, and you never went live with your guitar on that stage, not even to cameo in somebody else's.
No. They always ask me to come down and play a Kiss song or whatever, but maybe I'm just so swamped. I'm back and forth and everything, but.
Wow.
Maybe we might have to do a reunion show or something.
Oh, absolutely you do. I was looking at all this stuff, the attractions, the events, the vendors that show up, I love the cosplay aspect of it. It's only appropriate that anybody that's going down there and has that kind of a an interest in something like Mothman, it has to be some sort of a comic book feel to things. I mean, this is it
is
right. But what about guest speakers? Have you ever had any like talk radio shows show up there and do that live from Mothman Festival, or what kind of speakers you have lined up this year?
We have a lot of authors, a lot of investigators, and there's a few of them that were witnesses. We still have a few witnesses that will come to the festival. And people do podcasts and video blogs and all that kind of stuff, from the festival. We see a lot of them on YouTube and things like that. But it's kind of, and the cosplay aspect of it is taking a life of its own too. Yeah. Not strictly all Mothman. I mean, you get people dressing up from all sorts of movies and things like that. So it's a family oriented festival. We started it off as free. It's still free other than, food and parking and that kind of stuff. So, but the guest speakers and the bands and all that, people enjoy that, especially some of them witnesses, because they can actually sit down and talk to them and ask them questions and things like that. Because there's not too many of them left.
No, there's not. Well, that's all on mothmanfestival.com. It's part of a network of websites that you've set up. I have that all linked in the description of this episode. I got to get down there for a Mothman festival one of these years. I really do. That would be wonderful to do, and maybe to do a show from there. So who knows? Maybe 2024. It's going to be a crazy year next year, but that might be a much welcome break from it all.
Yeah, or just come. We're open year round at the museum. So I mean, if you can't make the festival, just let us know you're coming to the museum. All
righty. Anything else you want to leave people with, Jeff? This is a wonderful conversation with you.
Other than the fact, like this, you mentioned the festival's coming up in a couple weeks. The museum's open year round, except for major holidays and stuff like that. Come to Point Pleasant. There's a lot of history. Not all Mothman. You got the river industry history, the Native American Indian history. There's a lot of museums. You have the River Museum, which is opening up right down from us, the new River Museum. You have a farm museum. You have Twin Dewey State Park, Crowdell Park, all kinds of stuff. So, when we do those tours, we take everybody around and show them all those places. So, Mothman's been a good calling card, for people to come to Point Pleasant. Some people may come and the kids are into the Mothman, they'll go to the museum, and the family might go over to the Riverfront Park or the state park and stuff like that. So I think it's been good for tourism too.
It's good. It's good for the soul. I love the curiosity. I love the vibe you've created, and as you said, it's family friendly, and I really hope that I get to check this off on my bucket list because it sounds like a really great time. And it's not outside of driving distance. I would do that drive. I would not charter a plane to West Virginia. That's what I would do. Yeah. So
we used to drive to New Jersey for the KISS convention, so you can come down here for Mothman.
Oh yeah. No, that's a good.
Columbus, New Jersey.
Fair trade. Thank you for everything, Jeff. It's been a wonderful time with you.
All right. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Take care. There he goes, Jeff Wamsley. Mothmanlives.com. That link is in the description of the episode. Nice little spot on a Wednesday night. And now we get to open up the lines on the second half of the show. Non-human encounters. You can send me whatever. Anything Anything in theme for the show tonight? I don't care. I would love to hear some spooky stories, some unexplained encounters that you've had with things that are obviously not human, and obviously not anything that resembles ordinary local fauna, local non-human inhabitants. That's what I want to know about. But also, it's just we can go anything goes too. So I can't wait to hear from some of you guys, and we'll do some other things that came in the second half of the show. Won't be too call heavy, but I'll make some time for it. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out. Press the like button. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to intermission.
Quite frankly.
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 We all support quite frankly.
Not quite.
Quite frankly.
Let's go, Brandon.
Quite frankly in Roma, Italia.
Quite frankly. You going on Frank's show tonight?
I want to get a Coke. Can I get a Coke?
So everybody watch, Quite Frankly, with Frank.
November chim, it used to be fun. Now it's slowly killing me. I may have a problem according to Google. I'm convinced there's no fixing me. It feeds on my weakness. It stays on my low. It sleeps. When I pretend to live, had you under control. Jump. I'm always on the run while I feel something trying to hold me down. I can always find a reason to complain, but I'm determined to tell this all around. It feeds on my weaknesses, it stays on my low, it sleeps. When I pretend to live, and you are in control. I spend time in lies, but you show.
But a headline nonetheless. Let's get into the Super Chats and we'll take some of your calls. I'm going to leave open the general call line, 914-200-0269. And maybe go check in on the Gilded, too, see if that works tonight. Stove, thank you so much for the tip. Incompetent Hands also sent a tip and says, hey, Frank, no work tonight because of the hurricane here in Florida. There you go. So I'm chilling watching my favorite show about my favorite cryptid. Cheers, my friend, and blessings to you and yours. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that were added to the mix about Mothman tonight. Because the first question I had before I did a little bit of digging was, are we talking about some sort of a mythical origin story like the New Jersey Devil? Where it's the cursed 13th child of a local woman who lives in the Pine Barrens? Or is this something else? Is this something else? Is it somebody on a jetpack? Obviously, that would be a little bit different. The sound, especially in the 1960s, a jetpack in the 1960s, that is not going to be as smooth as something. Can you imagine driving down a country road in the middle of the night in 1966, 1967, around there, and you're going in excess of 70 miles an hour, and there is something with glowing red eyes, or at least two glowing red orbs, keeping pace with you up above your car that you cannot shake. That's crazy. But the military installation aspect of Point Pleasant from World War II, all those igloos housing explosives, were explosives the only things going on there? Was that the only interest? Was it just a storage facility, Point Pleasant? Was there anything else going on? And the Men in Black? Men in Black stories are creepy as hell. They really are. Maybe I'll ask Greg Carlwood to dig up some of his favorite Men in Black stories when he comes on in October. But that changes things. It at least adds in a different dimension to the Mothman story. Maybe it isn't a cryptid. Maybe we're talking government experimentation here again, cover-ups, secret technology. If the saying goes that whatever the government or any kind of organization, the organizations, the power centers that really control the world and set the pace for the kind of technology we're allowed to have, if the old logic stands true that they are at least 50 to 100 years ahead of us, then think about what kind of toys they could have played with in some kind of a spooky way and reveal it to people in West Virginia, let's say. In 1966, you're talking about 21st century technology, and in 1966, that's if the logic holds out, of that they're always 50 to 100 years ahead. And then there's the tulpa aspect, which may lend to some of the more modern sightings that you see. But you got to remember, Slender Man, the things that we see that they have really been born from the internet. And now the Loab type of things that are being born and taken note of inside of AI-generated art and all that stuff. We talked about her, that creepy ass woman that keeps showing up inside of all this weird creepy art. Sleep in my mom's house a few miles away, but my aunt, her daughter, had died in her sleep in this house, but not in my bedroom. In the 1970s, that was back in the 1970s when I slept in what used to be known as bedroom. I would always keep my door to the hallway closed since lights coming in bothered me. One night I had trouble sleeping because of foot problems. All of a sudden the door opened slowly, letting a light in from the hallway where my grandmother was standing. Nonna was wearing a dress she always wore. I did not open my eyes fully, but peeped through squinty eyes, pretending to sleep because it was such a calming apparition. I didn't want her to leave by making sudden movements. She just wanted to see that I was all right, and then went away. Then I had to get up and close the door because the light coming in bothered me. I couldn't sleep, and I went to sleep. I was not asleep at the time, so that was weird. Have you ever seen a ghost? You've got to be kidding me. That the light bothered you more, the fact that you just saw that it was calming to see your dead grandmother in the doorway, but the light was bothering you. My grandparents loved me unconditionally, and there is never any reason why they would ever be an agitating force. Nothing about them is agitating to me, though. You have dreams, and sometimes people you love show up in very disturbing, kind of awkward ways, and it turns into a nightmare. You know how that is. But I don't think I would have a good experience. I don't care how angelic they look and how calming they were, or that is just good. Good for you. Good for you. You got a lot more balls than I do. Wowee. All right, 914-200-0269. What do you have for me? What do you have? Going over to Rumble, Jay Semo says, just saying hi. It's always great to hear from you, Jay. Thank you so much. Dawn in Ohio says, great show. I love the topic. I want to hear from some more people, especially if you're from West Virginia and you've seen Mothman. If you've seen it, then that's great. Thank you so much over on pill.net. This is on quitefrankly.tv. Witchy Poo says, happy hump day, everybody. Same to you, Witchy. Doug Simmy, thank you. Tempo 420, C Blanche, Sean Joe, Bacon Slut. Always love seeing that name over there. That's a funny name. Mr. McBastard. That's funny too. Mr. McBastard says, working and lurking. Not lurking anymore, McBastard. I see you. Thank you, Robert Sarnes. C. Blanche gives a peace sign. And Big Lou says a little extra beer money. Wow, Big Lou, thank you so much. Boys Blanc with a cookie. And C. Blanche again. And just gave some gold pills for some mothballs to keep the Mothman away. Is anybody in the West Virginia, or within, a stone's throw of West Virginia, Point Pleasant, that's going to go out there September 16th and 17th to the Mothman Festival? That would be great if Set the Charge can play the Mothman Festival sometime in the next couple of years. That would be wonderful. Go out there and rock out in September in West Virginia. Play a set. Aurora will be my drum tech by that point. I'll teach her how to tune all of my toms, and she'll have it all down. Yes, indeed, she will. Let's take a call on the Gilded. I hope this works. Let's see. First one I'm bringing in is Trail. Trail, do you hear me? Is this going to work? Trail has bounced out and fallen back into the abyss, because that's the luck we have there. Let's go to the only person who ever works on Gilded. Albert, how are you on your exclusive line?
Hey, what's going on, Frank?
Nothing much. So what do you think?
Rest in peace, Isaac Happy, just to say it. I'm pretty sure that Mothman thing had to be those miners with the jetpacks.
You're from Peru?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Peruvian miner jetpacks. It was their great grandfathers. See, this is a family thing.
Fuckers are everywhere, dude. You got to watch out for them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Now listen. Now I know that you're not into space aliens, but as far as this not being everything that we can lay our eyes on, this not just being all there is to life, that there are so many more mysteries left to be unlocked. When you hear about these things, these testimonies that roll in about cryptids, sightings that are unexplained, that you cannot fit it into any profile of common animal or person or anything. What do you go to? Do you do your imagination still run wild, Albert, or do you have the answers to everything?
No, I think, I mean, different things are possible. Like you mentioned what do you want to call it? Manifestation. Manifest destiny, if you want to say that. There's so much that we don't know. The main thing, I mean, if you think about it, you go to a doctor and whatever, they still can't even tell you how you move your hand. I mean, they can tell you the mechanics of it and everything, but electrical signals, but how does that happen? And they're lost. I mean, we know nothing. We're here hanging out. I mean, as it occurs to me. So, I mean, there's a vast array of things that are completely possible. How would I know? But I gotta love Mitch McConnell, though, dude. I know you said it pulls on your heartstrings. It doesn't pull on mine. Guy's been an asshole forever.
Oh yeah.
And
but
I'm actually, I giggle thinking that he's stuck in his head, and I hope it's hell for him for the things that he's done. But I mean, it doesn't really matter, because we all leave anyways. The best thing about Mothman, though, I think, is that song by Sick Kick that you played that one time for me. That was great.
What song?
Mothman by Sick Kick.
Sick Kick?
Yeah, you played it in the opening once a long time ago.
Really?
Anyway, I thought you might have done that for this show, because I was like, wow, I wonder if he's gonna do that. And see, but I mean, we forget, shit comes and goes.
Are you sure?
But how about that rainstorm that we had in Michigan when you were talking? Some people were talking about that, dude. We don't even have storms like that here. I think I remember, being a little kid and having one hailstorm and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, but they can't burn us out here, they can't burn us out here. So the only thing they can do is just try to flood us out.
Yeah,
can't rain every day.
They're gonna drown you out over there. That's what they do. They'll just fine tune the assassination tool. I want to do a little bit more on the Hawaii thing soon too, because I know that is just it's just incredible. It really is incredible.
They said in the early 90s. I mean, they said, or actually before that, I think they said by the mid 90s they'd be able to control the weather. And I mean, they're just doing it, and it's so cool to me to watch it, because how many times have I called in and talked about that Tool song?
Anima?
We're watching it burn, dude.
Yeah,
we're watching it burn.
You're talking about Anima. Learn to swim. Learn to swim.
Especially if you're in Michigan.
If you're in Michigan, you're gonna have to learn to swim. That's everybody else. We'll see what happens. Some people are gonna have to learn to fly with all of the wind and the tornadoes and oh god no. Anyway.
Yeah, we all have boats here, so we'll do our best and fuck the rest. It's all you can do. The main thing is being with good company, and this has always been that. And I really appreciate the show. I always have. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Albert. I'm sure we will. On the bat phone over here, the Albert phone. Mothman, Sick Kick. Let me see if I've played this before.
Ideas a nightmare. Images rushing into your head and they hide there. You're choking on hope, blood flowing, cold shiver with shoulders.
Pretty good.
And you're struggling on keeping your mind clear.
I like it. It actually he actually reminds me of Isaac Cappy right there. That one Isaac Cappy song they put out. I love that song. But let me see. Ooh. I think I did play this once before. It's just been a long time, and I'm going to put this back in my playlist just so I don't lose track of it, because that's pretty sick sound. I like that sound. Yes, indeed. All right, let's take a call. You are on the air. Who's this?
Ricardo, man, how you doing?
Hello, Ricardo. Good to have you on.
I don't know if you remember me or not. I'm the one that called about that demon that almost tried to sleep with me.
Oh yes. Now I remember Ricardo. I remember this this call. I just do not remember the subject matter. But yes, you were sexually assaulted by a spirit.
Yeah.
This was in the dorm room, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But I have a different story.
Okay.
I was actually in Mexico, in Guadalajara, and my sister was going to get married down there, and so the whole family went over there, and we kind of split up between different aunts. You know, I'm originally from down there.
Mm-hmm.
And at my aunt's house where I was staying, I had a cousin before I was even born that had passed away there. She was a little baby. I don't know if you remember, like, old school cars, how the windows, how you would roll them up. The electrical was like a little, almost like a little switch.
Yeah.
That went forward and backwards. It wasn't where you pressed down. You know, it was forwards or back. And my aunt was unloading groceries and, you know, going back and forwards from the driveway to the inside. And in that time, in one of those, my cousin had gotten out of the car seat, stepped on the actual switch, and the window went up and choked her to death.
Whoa.
So, yeah, she was, you know.
How old?
Like about a year or so.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
What I found interesting, though, was that, you know, my brother-in-law, my sister, and I stayed at that house, and in the room that I was staying with my brother-in-law, there was this window that you could see into the driveway little porch area. The blinds were those vertical, you know, blinds that just kind of open. And I was tossing and turning. I couldn't, like, get comfortable. And this is, like, you know, pretty late, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And in one of those, I can see through the crack of this blind, and I see this little girl in a white kind of gown, sleeping gown, like just standing there on the porch. And I was like, oh, hell no. So I, like, you know, covered myself up, and I was like, no, I really don't want to, like, try to, like, meddle with anything right now, like, or mess with anything. I was like, I actually really want to go to sleep. And I just, like, felt this, like, presence inside the room. So I took off my blanket off of my head, and she was standing on the foot of my bed, just, like, looking at me. Nothing, like, evil or anything like that. It was, like, a very peaceful.
And what's your reaction to this? Okay, so it's peaceful, because when you say this, I put myself in your position. I don't care if she's, you know, eating an ice cream cone. The most, you know, it's almost like with Ghostbusters. You choose the form of the destructor, and in comes the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, this is still horrifying to me. I don't care what they're doing. She could be skipping rope, and it does not matter to me. She shouldn't be in there. What's your reaction?
I mean, honestly, it freaked me out. I think it was more so because it was outside last time I saw it, and now it was inside the room, like at the foot of my bed, just looking at me.
And you're sober.
And so, yeah, so I was 100% sober. And so I, like, covered myself up again, and this time I was just like, I'm not even going to look up. Like, what? Is she going to be, like, right next to me this time? Like, she's obviously getting closer to me. So I, like, just, like, stayed underneath the blankets, didn't want to, like, do anything. my brother-in-law is like, he doesn't even watch scary movies at all, you know? So I was like, I'm not going to wake him up. He's going to get married tomorrow. Like, he's not going to even be able to sleep if I wake him up, you know? So I was like, I'm just going to, like, stay in bed under the sheets and, like, not do anything. The next morning, my sister wakes up and goes to my brother-in-law and was like, we are not staying here another night. And he was like, why? She's like, there was this little girl that was standing at the foot of my bed.
Yeah.
And she's in another room. Like, she was like, you know, there was this little girl that was standing at the foot of my bed and just looking at me. And I don't know if it was my cousin or what, but we're not staying here another night.
No.
So whenever my brother-in-law tells me that, I was like, oh, my God. I was like, I swear to you that the exact same thing happened to me yesterday. And they were like, yeah, we're definitely not staying here another night.
No.
But, no. So it was, you know, even though it wasn't like evil looking or anything like that, it was still scary as hell, you know?
Ricardo, that is the...
Like, how is it that because, you know, she died whenever she was a year old. This was like a 10, 11-year-old girl.
Oh.
That's the part that tripped me out. Because I'm like, well, shouldn't you have stayed in that form? You know what I mean?
But are you certain it's that girl? It's your...
no.
I mean, see, that's what I'm saying.
I'm not 100% certain.
So it's, you know, that would be if there was some way to confirm that this is the deceased 1-year-old who got caught in the car window, that she has somehow in another place continued to age. That is a whole other boatload of questions, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately, the story is what it is, and I think that response was the good one. We're getting the hell out of here, and that's the end of it. That's the end of it. I mean, I'll tell you, it would be, I would pack up my entire family, and that would be it. Ricardo, thank you for the call, man.
Absolutely, man. You have a good one.
There's another one from Ricardo. He's 2 for 2 as far as mind-blowing calls go. Man. I preferred him talking about the horny ghost. I'll tell you, I got to be honest. The horny ghost thing at least gave me hope. You wake up in the middle of the night and something could be tickling your balls, perhaps. You're like, what? You'll never happen. You never guess what happened to me last night. But the whole just staring thing, ooh. If it must happen, let it be a horny ghost. But I don't want any of that, please. I don't want any of that. All right, let's take a really quick break. When we come back, we still have about 24 minutes left. This has been a good show. It's going all over the place, just the way I like it sometimes. All right? Don't go nowhere.
Yo, what's going on?
Here we with Rocka Rocka. Hey! And we just want to be a big cheers, everybody. Right?
Police in New Orleans clearing out Bourbon Street, breaking developments in the coronavirus pandemic.
Look, I can understand it both ways. I understand it, but everybody acting like the coronavirus is just so much of a big deal. Everybody scared and everything. I'm just saying, I played a hell of a joke on these people at work. Yeah. Look, I locked the door from the outside. They was in there having lunch. I walked in the room. I said, achoo! You should have seen them in there running, trying to get out the windows out of that thing. I said, hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. They was in there sweating like a snowman in hell. Look, I just can't wait till you get back to the days where you can stick your in somebody's ass and not have to wash your hands afterwards. You know, now you gotta go ahead and drink a whole bottle of sanitizer before you do anything. The coronavirus is not that damn serious, y'all. Hey, don't do that. Don't do that.
You really say that?
You're listening to Quite Frankly.
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going? Good, shit.
word of the day is sonder. 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 Noun. Sonder is defined as the realization that each passerby has a life as vivid and complex as your own. Suddenly it strikes you. The barista serving coffee, the artist sketching portraits, the old man feeding pigeons. Each person is the protagonist of their own epic tale. They have dreams, disappointments, and moments that make their hearts soar. In this grand tapestry of life, we are all interwoven threads, adding our color to the grand design. Well, there you have it. That's Sonder. Have you ever paused to consider all the stories that are unfolding around you? There's almost 8 billion of them. I'm Don Hewley, and that's the Daily Word.
All right. Let's see, y'all. Let's see. I just got an astro detail sent to me by a friend of the show. Astro. Take a listen to this. Frank, here's a quote for you. Pluto, as it moves through Capricorn, is opposing the sun in the natal chart, reflecting major and irreversible or irrevocable changes on many levels. This aspect has only occurred once before in American history during the period of the Revolutionary War. Trump's arrest has national significance, demonstrating vividly that the legal and constitutional system is defunct. It is dead. Mercury went into retrograde on the arrest. It will not play out as intended. It will be unsuccessful. The next eclipse is on his trial date, which equals an explosion. And it hits the U.S. national chart directly at its most important points, international status and economy. Attacking Donald is bad for the U.S. brand. The same people attacking him created the war in the Ukraine and are trying to smash up BRICS. They are deliberately creating a civil war in the U.S. in order to finalize the police state. So that came in from Mike the Psychic. Just throwing that one out there. Anything else over here? Oh man, I had a situation today. Well, it's not a situation. It's one of those things I expected. Aurora suffered her first legitimate rejection on the playground today. And I can see it unfolding. I could see it unfolding, and I just had to sit back and I had to let it happen. Went up to the park. She said, "Daddy, can we go to the swings?" You got it. So we started walking up. We do our little walk, trek up there. We're at the park and all that stuff. And we're on the swings. She says, I want a friend. I want to make a friend. And she always makes friends. And we've she's not a lonely girl. Even at two and a half, well, she's going to be 3 in a couple of weeks, so whatever, she's 3. Anyway, she was thinking out loud because she saw other kids running around. She wanted to make friends with them. Said, okay, well, we'll go make friends. And I told her, I said, listen, but you have to understand, you just go out there and ask people, do you want to play with me? And sometimes they're going to say yes, and sometimes they're going to say no. Just like some people who come and ask you, if you want to play, you're going to want to say yes to some people, and you're going to want to say not right now. And she understands. Well, first girl she went up to said, she said, you want to play with me? Oh, it's beautiful and it's sad to watch your child, just try to wiggle her way into groups of people and wanting to be there, running, at first, even if she's not acknowledged by another kid, to just follow kids around. They just tag along first, and they try to find whatever. And and she's usually trying to tag along with kids that are a couple of years older than her, that have a lot better language. She speaks amazingly, but still, watching her try to start conversations and all that. Anyway, this girl that she asked to play with, they actually were running around a little bit for a second or two. Girl had to be about 2 or 2.5 years older than Aurora, so she was kind of dusting her, just running faster, running on, doing things a lot more advanced physically and all that stuff. And about maybe 10 minutes into their little excursion, she got called over by her babysitter and they left. And so Aurora's just looking for new people to get in with, and she finds this group of kids. Some of them look like they're a little bit younger than her, but the ringleaders are at least 6-7 years old girls, and she's just not getting in. And they're moving from one place to the other, and she's trying to, get in there, sit down with them, and just trying to talk to them, whatever. And I can see this is it. She's going to be told to either leave, or they're going to run away, or something's going to happen, and I've got to just let this happen. She's got to know it. And boy, when it was clear that she had been told you can't come with us or something, I said, Aurora, called her. I said, let's go to a slide together. I want to go on that slide. And she responded to me. She started walking over to me, hung her head, and she just started crying. And so I went in there, I swooped her up, and I said, what's the matter? And I knew what happened. And she said, I want to go home. And they, they're not nice and all that stuff. And I just, oh my God, the cracking of my heart. It was like you can actually feel, like it was almost like cracking knuckles. You can actually feel, I can hear the sound of my heart cracking apart. Oh, but calmed her down and gave her some perspective and took her mind off of it. And it's only the first of many. You got to do it. But man, that sucked. And I was waiting for that shit. I was waiting for that. I knew it was going to happen. But today was the first. Anyway, brought her home. I've been thinking about that for, I don't know, 5.5 hours, 6 hours now. It's just been on my mind. So I'm just sharing it with you guys. So many of you have had children around the same time Aurora was born. I wish we were all hanging out together, because I know all, there'd be like 35 children. Just they would all be friends, wouldn't have to think about this, wouldn't have to think about, I don't want to take a chance. You have to take that chance though. You got to know what's out there. You got to know rejection. You just gotta, especially if you're in this business. And Aurora, I don't know what she's going to be one day. She's got a performer's spirit. I don't see her being a behind-the-scenes kind of a person. Maybe she is, but she's too much of a ham. So she's got to be able to know what rejection feels like anyway. But that's just something I'm throwing out there to you guys. All right. Those little bastards, I want to break their fucking faces. And then the rest of the day I'm like, should I said something? Should I, come on, Aurora. No, come over here. They're not nice people. Like trying to be like passive aggressive to full on aggressive. All the things, like, come on, no, Aurora, listen, they're going to grow up to be monsters one day. Don't worry about them. They have nothing to live for. All the things I wanted to say that's running through my head that especially for the 6 and 7 year olds to hear, because they understood that I was the dad. And they're kind of like, looking at me as I was calling her over. They understood what was going on there. At least the older ones knew, oh, we just rejected this guy. This guy's been watching us reject his daughter. Yeah. Oh, Aurora, come on. No. They're going to be, there's nothing. There's no success for them in the future. They're horrible people. They have no souls. Don't even worry about it. Come on. Let's go on this, let's go on the slide for people with spirit. Come over here. This is where people with actual, a chance get to hang out. So, I was walking home. I was like, you know what? Lauren's got to take Aurora to. She's got to take her to a couple of more of these. Because I like taking Aurora up there to the swings and all that stuff. But after today, I was like, you know what? I think Lauren's got to take her to the park next time. Because if this happens 2 times in a row, what am I going to be? What am I going to do? Just got to get over it. That's what I got to do. All right, let's go and see what else we have over here. I'm going to put this "Have you ever seen a ghost?" thread in my favorites because we can do this on a couple of nights. There's some really, there's a couple of good ones here. Couple of good ones. All right, let's take another call. One more call. 713, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Frank, this is Swish in Houston, Texas. How are you?
How are you, Swish?
I'm all right, man. Hey, I first caught you on X22 the last time you were on there about a year or something ago, and I don't think I've missed many shows since, man. So, great show.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and I hope that Dave is well. And I gotta email him again. I emailed him about, I don't know, it feels like close to a year ago, to make sure that we were on good terms, because we were on opposite sides of the we were kind of on opposite sides of the field on that last show that I appeared on with him. So
I saw you on there. I was like, who is this guy? And so anyway, I kind of switched slowly. I don't really listen to it too much. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's a good show, but I just kind of, I listened to that thing religiously forever. I guess, You
don't have to explain. You don't have to explain. I'm happy you're here, and I hope you have been having a good time. So, what's on your mind, Swish?
Well, a couple things. What's your main site? Is it still YouTube at this point, or what?
Oh,
I remember sometimes you do like 30 minutes and switch and all that stuff.
Well, I'm going to, once we have our updated YouTube sign-off videos ready, then we're going to be just splitting it right down the middle. And for the time being, that's what we'll do. The first hour will be on YouTube and everything, and then we'll sign off of YouTube. And I would say, for keeping in touch with the show, quite frankly.tv is just the best way to go. That's just the best way to go, because no matter what, I'll always be live there.
Yeah, Woke Societies is doing the same thing over at Phil.net, basically, but just because he don't want to lose all his following again.
Yeah, but, Scott, I heard Scott was doing that. I heard Scott was doing that, to going exclusively over on Foxhole, which I think is really great, because you can always upload things.
I think it's Phil.net actually, but
but Foxhole is the actual video client, the video server to it. Yeah, it's a little confusing that there's Foxhole, then there's Pilled. Yeah. And so, but yeah, I understand.
Right. Well, down here in Houston, man, we haven't had any rain. It used to be like Miami down here. I've been here about 6-7 years. It used to rain every day. We haven't had mentionable rain in 35 days, man.
Wow.
So it's been tough down here. I don't know what's it like up there. You guys getting rain, or just we've been in a big time drought. I don't know.
I don't know. I saw an article yesterday how most of the drought affected areas of California have now been reversed. Now there's almost no drought in California, and other parts are being parched, and then other parts are being flooded. Over here, exactly where I am in New York, it's kind of been even keel. We've had
You're a little bit outside of the city, right? In Westchester, right?
Yeah, we're a little bit outside the city, but it's really it's been a pretty average summer. I know all the reporting.
Hey, what's the delay on here? Because I was trying to watch it, and I was like, it's going to say 713. I think it's 15 seconds or 4 seconds or what?
Oh, I don't know. It could be anywhere up to a minute in some places. Yeah.
Well, I had a quick thing on a Mothman. I'm not quite sure what to make of that, because that stuff happened quite a while back. The actual story, but I guess she was really good. But I kind of think whatever that Mothman thing was, it seems like whoever he came from, he was kind of gone, right? There's no more sightings of it.
I know. I mean,
I was hoping you'd ask him that because it kind of disappeared. These sightings happened a long time ago.
Exactly. And I guess I could have formulated a question that got to that point a little bit clearer, but that is the whole that's the crux of the Mothman prophecies that John Keel wrote about, that we're talking about within just a little bit over a year, 2 years or so. There was a very specific window where all this stuff was happening, where it's not just sightings of things that are flying around. It was things that were we're talking about things of a military strangeness. We're talking about structural failures of bridges. We're talking about and then the Men in Black aspect is still very, very fresh for me. So, and it's all happening with that very specific thing, but it was enough to leave an impact, It
did, yeah. It's like he was saying, all the people had the same weird stories. But the jetpack thing, you got to figure the jetpacks, if they had, they had them I remember those old grainy. I haven't seen jetpacks lately, but I bet if they have them now, they're way different because cars in the 60s don't look like cars now. They might be quiet. And he didn't say, I don't know if they had red eyes. I thought they said they had some discs with red lights on the disc.
No, the discs.
That's what Timothy Alberino said, right?
Well, Timothy Alberino said, well, that's going back to Albert's comment about, hey, maybe the jungle miners that were in Peru, that everybody said, and of course that was the joke. The joke was that these are actual miners that have levitation discs on their feet that are I don't know, but anyway, is that all?
Anyway, I got to wrap it up real quick. Matt, I love his laugh. Sometimes I'll be walking in and I'll do laundry or something. I walk in, Matt's laughing. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I just start laughing. Also, DeSantis is going to be in trouble because after this hurricane, apparently all the insurance companies of Florida don't have the money to cover all this stuff. You know what I'm talking about? So he was on Bannon today with Laura Loomer, and he's going to be in a big mess for that. And Sick Kick, I'm a DJ. I record some of the alternative songs you play, so I know all of them, and I put a QF by them, so I have all your songs right there, and people love it at my get-togethers and stuff. It's a remix of "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins. So it's a really good jam. Maybe you could put in the rotation.
Well, hey, send me the link, and thank you for the call, Swish. That's great. He's got a lot going on there. I didn't hear about the insurance thing. I don't know what the basis of that claim is for. Did he say Laura Loomer said that on Bannon's show, the War Room? I don't know what the basis of that claim is. Why all of the insurance companies in Florida have no money left? If it's something that Ron DeSantis bears personal responsibility for, then of course that would be a story. But yeah, a lot of that, all the Mothman stuff happened right in that window, and it left enough of an imprint to last for generations. And now, of course, people are seeing it all over the place. But could that be the mental aspect of it? Could it be the manifestation aspect of it? Spiritual? Don't know. Do not know. Roswell was only one crash. Or one incident, multiple vehicles, they say. And, of course, the theories over there range across a whole, array of circumstances, whether it was a scalar weapon, scalar guns that were used to shoot things down, or whatever the hell's going on, all the official stories and everything in between. There was only one day. That was only one day, July 8th or whatever it was, 1947. That was only one day, not 13 months. You saw what Roswell became. And just as much cover-up and just as much micromanaging of narratives and people getting knocks on the door from strange people and getting the third degree. And so all questions are valid. And you know what? From an audience like this, who deals in supernatural questions all the time, I don't know why any of this stuff is really ever dismissed out of hand. Obviously, there can be more than one way to skin a cat, to explain something that is inexplicable at times, Is it of human hands, or is it some kind of a bleed over from another dimension, or is it, who knows? Who knows? Anyway, those are the questions of our time, and many others, because it won't go away. It's just not going to go anywhere. Thank you, Swickley. Thank you, Tennessee Jed, who says, great show, Frank. Thank you so much. And Boys Blanc and everybody else. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything over on Rumble. Dawn in Ohio says, I might go to, I guess, the Mothman Festival. I'm about 2.5 hours away. Oh, 2.5 hours? That's nothing. That's nothing. If you got a day open, why not? Why not? Tell everybody I said hello. Anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We'll get this up on demand, as soon as we can. And tomorrow, we'll be live with Mike King. A true crime evening over here on, quite frankly, for the Thursday evening edition. So please send in all your questions. I'd love to get you involved in that. And in the meantime, have yourself a wonderful evening. I'm going to go release the scratching. I'm going to empty the treasure chest on D Live, and we'll be on our way.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Happy birthday, Billy.